Hello, students. It's my pleasure to welcome you all for the lecture series on basic civil and mechanical engineering. So, in this continuing lecture series, we will see about the basics of mechanical and then civil engineering. So, first we'll start with mechanical engineering. Particularly, we'll start with the basics, which is manufacturing, the first unit, and then we will move on to the power plants and IC engines. And then in the subsequent third unit, we will move into the refrigeration and air conditioning systems, followed by basic building materials and their types, and different overview of civil engineering, followed by foundation, types of foundation, and construction equipments. So that is the overlay of this basic civil and mechanical engineering. So let's get into our first topic, which is the basic of foundry process. So before we get into Foundry, what is Foundry, everything. So if you see the image in the slide, you would have seen that in many of the documentaries, etc. It is a furnace, actually. Furnace is nothing but it is a large scale stove. Simply put, it is a large scale stove. A stove can be burned using anything. You can use coal, you can use wood, you can use gas, even you can use electricity. So same principle applies to this furnace itself. Only thing is it is a scaled up version. So it is used to uh, melt metal. A furnace is a stove, a large scale stove which is used to melt metal. So place where that process happens, that is actually called as the foundry. So a foundry is a place where metal is melted. The operations, everything is carried out. That you call it as a foundry. So you can see it this way. You have a stove in your house. You have pots. You will be cooking it. So you are calling that area as a kitchen. Similarly, you have a furnace, and you will have some other equipments for making the metal into some shape. So where that takes place in our home, we call it as a kitchen where we cook. Similarly, in industry where we create metal into some shape, it is called as a foundry. So I hope this analogy uh, makes you understand it fully. So foundry is nothing but it is a place where melting and subsequent shaping operation is carried out. So what are the equipments needed for melting? The first thing is a furnace. So what is the foundry? What is a furnace? Why? How it differs from the conventional stove? So the only major difference here is that in our stove we use fuel, then you use source of ignition, and then we get the oxygen from the atmosphere. So we need a fire triangle to get the fire. So we all know it is fuel, oxygen, and source of fire. So in our home, since we are comparing our home stove with that of a furnace, in the home stove, typically oxygen is obtained from the air. But if you take a furnace, you supply oxygen either using a blower or some setup. You supply excess air. So what that makes is that at any given point of time, abundant oxygen is available. So when oxygen is available in abundant, what happens is that the fuel burns completely. So whenever the fuel is burned completely, more amount of heat is generated. So that's the reason why foundry or furnace in particular is able to generate very high temperature compared to that of your um, conventional stove. That's the first point which you have to know. So furnace is a place where metal is melted. So we can either obtain metal directly from what you can say from the earth in the form of ore, or you can reuse the already available material. So either you can obtain metal from the scrap, or you can obtain from the ore. So both things are carried out in the furnace itself. So furnace, what it does is that it takes input as the either the scrap or the ore, and it converts into a pure molten metal. So that's what happens in a furnace. So for our syllabus, just the basic idea of the furnace is sufficient. So there are different types of furnace, cupola furnace, blast furnace, etc. Just understand what is a furnace. So next thing which you have to do is you have to make the molten metal into a required shape. So that process is actually called as casting. So we'll discuss about casting in depth in the subsequent lectures. So that's all for the introduction about Foundry. Thank you, students.